Women's Work, our annual panel that invites women entrepreneurs to tell us about their experiences and share their advice. Today we feature a special group of panelists who are already quite successful at working out in the open way before COVID. They'll share a little bit about their experiences and give some great advice on the challenges and perks of presenting projects in public spaces.
Let's find out how they all got started.
I was a fan of comedy. I started working for Queer Eye for the Straight Guy, and I just loved all the hosts and how funny they were and how they could change any situation when they walked into a room.
I started just sharing events that looked really interesting to me and sending them to those friends. And what wound up happening was that they would forward my email to their friends too, being like, this looks really cool, do you want to come?
Originally, I started in parks advocacy organizations where I learned how important access to parks and performance spaces and open space and plazas was.
And so I decided that I wanted to do comedy myself. So I decided to begin to do comedy in subways. Mm-hmm. And so I was calling myself the subway comic, but the thing is I kept getting thrown out of the, you have a First Amendment right, but when it comes down to the subway, it's like, every man is for himself. So when I would try to do comedy, I kept getting thrown out.
And we wound up having these massive hangs in parks and public spaces all around New York City. So just through word of mouth, I just started building this following. But I also realized that people actually worked in these public spaces doing these types of jobs. Mm-hmm. And so I became really curious about that.
And then I transitioned into working with community organizations that also integrated arts and cultural initiatives, and learned that was really my sweet spot. I loved bringing performances and art and poetry and dance to our parks and open space.
Mm-hmm. And I decided that I'm going to just, take this movement to the park. That's the beauty about when you have an idea. It's like you're able to sort of mold it and shape it into what it became today.
And I learned that through development. I was originally fundraising. So I learned the not so glamorous part of producing, which is how do you rally support, how do you raise money, whose signatures do you need, what elected officials do you need to visit, and how you need to align all of that in order to produce a dance performance in your park.
And I just started freelancing at lots of different cultural organizations around the city. And I made those contacts through my list. So that list became a blog, and to date it has thousands of followers. I haven't been writing quite as much lately. But a lot of the institutions were following my list because I was writing about them. So I was able to tap into that resource by just setting up informational interviews with a lot of these people.
I think a lot of our viewers would be interested in finding out, how do you go about kind of dealing with New Yorkers and the public and the streets and cops and parks and permits and all that good stuff? Like, is there some good, succinct advice that you can let our viewers know?
Okay, first of all, you have to have a vision of what you want. Mm-hmm. So because what it is then you can find other organizations that are doing the same thing and sort of look and see what their setup is like. You can talk to, sometimes you can contact the organizations too to see exactly how they do it. But yeah, it's the vision. So the vision is there, mm-hmm. and then it starts with, of course, permitting. I mean, getting the yeses.
You start by figuring out how to tell your story, mm-hmm. and then getting to know your community. So I'm sure that regardless of what neighborhood you're in, if you're in Staten Island, there's Staten Island Council on the Arts. In Brooklyn, it's Brooklyn Council on the Arts, right? So figuring who are the people in the neighborhood that can help you, and there are tons of resources.
I think I would have two pieces of advice. I think the first one, it's very much about networking. So figuring out your in, whether it's looking on LinkedIn and seeing if you might, doing the search and seeing who works in these places, and then also seeing if you might have a connection to them, or if you know people who might have a connection to them, so that you can maybe set up an informational interview or a conversation. The second piece of advice I would say for public space generally is figuring out who manages a space that's outdoors. So even though it's public space and it just seems like it's out there, usually plazas have someone who's managing them. Parks, usually the Parks Department is managing them. And getting to figure out what the process is for those particular plazas, parks, etc.
Relationships too,
Mhm.
with some of the city producers as well, and the permits department, talking to the parks managers too about like what's allowable, what they can do, you know. And also this, and if you want to do this too, you have to be persistent because there are a lot of no's along the way.
Yes, absolutely.
And so the beauty is that of a no is that you appreciate the yes so much, you know.
So there are people in your neighborhood, in your community who are already doing that work, and you just need to start talking to them. And it's interesting, you know, the people who are in the community are interested in a wide range of things that are happening. So your local community board people would love to hear about your project, and they would help you to frame your story so that you can bring it to your city council member and ask for funding.
I think business improvement districts are pretty untapped resources in the sense that we usually have a little bit of a budget to activate our public spaces. We, as the business improvement district, are managing all the streets of the neighborhood, keeping them clean, and with that mandate, we are also managing the plazas.
Right.
So we oftentimes accept proposals from outsiders. Usually it's just the offering of space that we can provide, but every so often, if we have a sponsorship, we might be able to provide some resources around it.
So, I think a lot of people want to hear when we come to this event work and like working in public spaces, what's the best part of it? Why it feels it's a lot of work. I think when we learn what goes on behind it, you're like, why would anybody want to do that? But I think it's good for people to hear what's the best part of it and what is meaningful to you that keeps you going to do these beautiful events in all these community spaces.
I think it's, well, for me, I know it's creating that space where people experience something new and they feel comfortable.
Yeah.
And knowing that there's a community of artists and makers who are putting out incredible work, and knowing that I can bring that part and I can deal with the logistics and I can deal with the permits and the funding, which is the not so glamorous part of it, right? Part that's kind of daunting. But once you put all of that together, you create this unforgettable experience for people, for performers and for the audience.
Exactly.
And I love that I get to create free experiences for people, that anyone can participate. And I don't mean to be like, we're all accessible, we know, like there are still issues, right?
Yes.
Not everyone will feel comfortable with
Right.
every kind of performance, but creating a warm and open, uncomplicated space.
What's incredible about public space is that it's the street. So anyone can just either walk up, there's no barrier to entry, it's free, and it provides it's like a gateway.
Yeah.
Because once you kind of get the exposure, then you might want to explore it further.
New York City is one of the most supportive places ever for the arts. I mean, it has a budget that's larger than the National Endowment of the Arts. So if you have a dream and you are, and I think that the city is very eager to foster creativity, and I think, and let you be who you are. So if you have an idea, don't let anything stop you, because the city will support you.
I would love to talk about your new project because I think it's really important, and I think that you've been able to achieve so much in that realm in such a short amount of time, and I would love for our viewers to hear about that.
My new initiative is in January of 2020. January 2020 was a great year.
Yeah.
I got I found out I had breast cancer, and it was a great year because I got a new look. Through the chemo, I got new boobs. You know what I mean? And I got a new passion for trying to save lives. For women of color who are dealing with breast cancer, because my mom passed away of breast cancer 30 years ago, and then come to find out, like, a lot of things haven't changed. The statistics are really, really dire for women of color. So I just thought, I went through everything with my mom, and so I have cried all the tears, and and I went through all of the stages of like not knowing what to do next. I was like, I'm going to use laughter as a way to educate my community, and also to make the journey lighter for other people that were going along on this journey. So the whole idea is to be able, through my movement, which I call #StrongBlackBoobs, because I want it to be memorable, and I want to honor my mom, who had strong black boobs, you know, to the very end. And like, I think if you have within your power the ability to do something that can change the world, or just change your moment, your spot, your minute, your day, you know, then why not try to do that?
Thank you for coming and sharing your thoughts with us. It was really good to get to know you. And hopefully very soon we can all be out in the world together enjoying more of your amazing events. Thank you again.